Hello, good afternoon, everybody. Today is 28th of May 2015, and the time is 7 minutes after 1:07. We are going to talk about this subject today, epigenetics. I'm so excited to share this information, and I hope I'll be able to do justice to it in terms of explaining it to my best of ability. Okay, so we're going to talk about environment. We're going to talk about human mind and lifestyle. Okay, now the epigenetics, you'll be hearing more about it. I mean, they just find this out and it's new. What does this epigenetics mean? Well, it's just a fancy smanchy scientist English, but I'm going to explain what that means. Okay, so shall we start? I want you to sit back, put something on your head and relax because I'm about to blow your mind. Okay, ever heard of a paradigm shift? That's what I'm trying to do here. Try to shine a little light into this information that we didn't know anything about it. Okay, so sit back, relax, and enjoy this presentation. So if you're talking about epigenetics, it's all about the gene. So we hear that when some people get sick, the doctors they try to trace back in the family tree to find out uh, did any of the family have this disease, maybe cancer or diabetes or anything. So they always try to trace back to find out maybe your mom or your dad has any of the disease. Okay, so when we're talking about epigenetics, it all has to do with your gene. So what make up your gene? The ones on the left here, which is circled on the red with red, is what you don't need at all on your gene. But what do we have today? Drugs, stress, and aging. So if your mom or your dad is suffering from this trait here, it's gonna come with the baby. So the eating habit might be good eating habit or bad eating habit. But these two here is always encouraged to be in our gene. Okay, so these are the things when we're looking about gene or what is associated with the gene. These are the important factor that we're going to focus on today. Okay, so the gene information, these are the things that the gene function, these are the things that make up your gene. Okay, now for example, if the mom is smoking, which is the first generation, the mom become the first generation, she's going to pass that down to the baby, which the baby will become the second generation, and the baby will have his or her own baby. That will be the third generation. So these are the environmental factors in women reproductive health impact on child health and development. So we get people today, they're pregnant and they smoke, so they're passing that down. If you trace back their gene, somebody there must have smoked. Okay, so the same thing apply to any other thing. It could be one of those things we mentioned. from the previous slide. So any of these things contribute in terms of your gene function. So we go to our doctor and he said, oh, it's in the gene. So when we think about that, what does that mean? So that means someone must have done something bad and that affected their own gene and they give birth to the baby. The baby now have that. So if that person again, the baby again didn't treat that, he's gonna have his own baby, and that's passed from generation to generation. Okay. Now all these gene, what do they make up? They make up your DNA. So we know that we have 46 chromosomes. We get 23 from our mom and we get 23 from our dad, and that make up our DNA. But the DNA of a thing is really a complicating uh, mechanism. It's very hard to explain. We know that DNA contain all our information, and the discovery of DNA kind of make everything so easy. Now that most of the crime which they committed some time ago, because of the development in knowing how the DNA works, they were able to record some of the cases. Some people they've served how many years and in prison, and at the end of the day it wasn't them. Some people they've gone free, they have to go bring them back. So DNA really has played a very big role in our society these days. So it's really important to pay attention to it. So when we talk about the gene or the epigenetics, the root come down to our DNA. Okay? So I'm gonna be zooming in into this DNA. Well, what does all that mean? Does it mean that if you have a bad gene, then you finished? Well, this is an article from the Times newspaper. They now publish an article saying that if you have all that happen to your gene, then it doesn't mean it's all over. So there is a way out. So if you're thinking now, oh, but my mom had cancer or my dad had cancer, that means I'm going to have it. Well, no, it doesn't mean that you're going to have it, but because there is a way out. Okay? There is a way out, and they just find this information. It's all new. Everybody is sharing it, so that's why I'm trying to share it here as well. Okay? So the topic where why your DNA isn't your destiny. So we're going to find out why your DNA is not your destiny. You can change it. You can change whatever damage your past generation has done to your gene. You can change it, so that way you prevent passing it down to your children, and your children will start passing it back down to their own children. So we can eliminate any damage the previous generation done to your gene. That's what that means. Now, if we're going to talk about how to change it, we have three types of mind. We always mix this up. I'm going to explain the difference between these three types of mind. We have the conscious mind, we have the subconscious mind, and we have the unconscious mind. These two we are taught in school, this conscious mind and unconscious mind. They don't teach this in school. And this is where everything lies. The one in the middle here, the subconscious mind. If you want to get rid of bad gene, you have to understand this one here. Okay, but because it's not being taught at school, there's no any other place they teach this. So we we end up growing up dying with our bad gene. But to be honest with you, there's nothing like a bad gene. Every gene is perfect. Okay, your gene is perfect. Even if it's been damaged down the line, it doesn't mean it's a bad gene. So I'm gonna be zooming in just these two here, the conscious mind and the subconscious mind. I'm not really going to bother about this because there's nothing really we can do about this. This control your breathing, your autonomic nervous system, things you are not aware of. For example, if you eat food, you're not aware of how the digestion goes. And when you're sleeping and you breathe in, you don't know how that goes. So really, we're not going to focus on it. We're going to focus on these two, and these are the only one we know about. We know nothing about this. So I'm going to talk about this and tell you how these two works. Okay. So when we talk about conscious mind, what do we mean? Well, we know about these five senses: this sight, hearing, touch, smell, and taste. These are the senses we are aware about. We use them as we are growing up. Okay? So whatever that we are thinking today comes from these five senses. We use our eye to see something and that send message to our brain. We hear something and also that send message to our brain. We touch something and that also send message to our brain. We smell something, send message to our brain, and we taste something that will also send message to our brain. So we're going to find out how these five senses pay part in our gene. So when we talk about conscious mind, what part of our life does it control? Well, this is your brain. We have the left brain and we have the right brain. So if you are left-handed, you are using your right brain. If you are right-handed, you are using your left brain. Okay, most of the time you are using, and this whole brain, the job is thinking, to use it for thinking. Really, that's what it does. Okay, we use this part of mind to think and to do everyday activity, and is in charge with our short time memory. It doesn't store anything. It doesn't store any information. It doesn't store anything that happened yesterday. It just it's conscious. It's not in charge of any unconscious activity going on in your body. Okay, so we use this for talking, for hearing, and thinking and all that. Okay. Now I love this quote because this quote kind of summon everything they said about the epigenetics, and it also summon everything I'm going to say today. If you understand this quote the way I do, then you wouldn't have problem in changing your gene. So when I say the gene, there's nothing like a bad gene. I come to realize that from understanding what this quote means. Say whatever we plant in our subconscious mind and nourish it with repetition and emotion will one day become a reality. A nightingale. So when you think about something and repeat it over and over and over and over and over, then it become you. There's another quote from Napoleon Hill. He said, "You become what you think about most of the time." So what you think about all the time, you become that. Okay, so I understand this quote. It kind of changed my perception when I hear about people talking about gene and all that. It's all left for us to change whatever gene we have inherited from our past parents. So when you go to your doctor and they tell you it's genetic, there's nothing they can do about it. Lie. There is something you can do about your gene. Okay? There is something you can do about your gene. The whole presentation is getting complicated now. I want you to please pay attention to me so you wouldn't lose me. Okay? Just pay attention and listen to what I'm going to say because it's getting complicating. Takes me time to put the puzzles together. Remember when I say relax? So I want you to sit back again, put block on your head and relax because I'm about to blow your mind. Now, this is the one that they didn't teach us in school. And to be honest, there should be a subject taught in school called subconscious mind. That should be his own module. That should be his own subject. How many years will it take you to graduate from this subject? All of your years. Because we can't finish learning this and we cannot get our head around how this works. Okay? Now, if if um if I ask you to tell me how your car look like, immediately the picture of your car will come to the screen of your mind and you will tell me you're not thinking in terms of CAR. We don't think by words. So if I say your phone, the words of your phone wouldn't come to your mind. The picture of your phone will come to your mind. If I say your TV, the words of the TV wouldn't come to your mind. It's the picture. So we think in terms of picture. If we're trying to explain something, we need to have the picture in our mind to be able to understand what you're saying. And that's why we struggle from learning language because we don't have the picture of that language in our brain, in the screen of our mind. And that's why we can't speak it. You can only start speaking the language when it's being translated to the words you have the picture in your mind. And that's when you start making sense to you. Okay? So remember we said that the conscious mind is in charge of your thinking. That's how the green stuff there is how little your conscious mind is. In fact, it's just 12%. The the other 88% of your whole being is down to the subconscious mind. Okay? And what is this subconscious mind? What's what's how do we know it? Because we don't have any picture of it. And that's when we get confused. Because if we're trying to explain something to you that has no picture, you get confused because you can't understand what we're saying. Okay, so this is as close as I can come in terms of having the picture of how your subconscious mind looks like and how it works. So pay attention. I'm trying to explain this. So in your thinking, in your everyday thinking, the positive thinking is just 12% in your everyday thinking. If I stop you and say, "Oh, stop. What were you thinking last 5 minutes?" If you think back, you will find out that 88% of it is all negative thinking. Just 12 is something positive. Okay? And remember the last quote I said, you become what you think about most of the time. So if 88% of it is negative, you're gonna be miserable all the day. So that's when you get people they so they can't concentrate, they suffer, they say, oh, it's my mom and my dad is like that. Uh it's in the gene. So this is part of the problem. We use the little brain here to think something that has no meaning in our life. So it's over 6,000 thoughts pass through our thinking every day. Over 6,000 thoughts pass through our conscious mind thinking every day. So 88% of it is negative, rubbish. You don't need it. So just 12% is something positive. And something positive is that you wake up, you take shower, you don't have to think about those, and you just say you interact with your mate or any other person, and if you're in school, you go to school, just normal things. But while you're doing those things, you still thinking something that you're never going to use, spending energy thinking that. And if you are going to be what you think most of the time, that 88% is coming down to through this subconscious mind. Okay? So it's like you having computer. Everything you see on the screen of your computer is coming from the CPU. Everything you see there. So the same way with your mind, like your subconscious mind is like the CPU, not the monitor. So everything that make up you lives on your subconscious mind. So we had the first one, which we call five senses, which is your sight, your sight, hearing, touching, and other ones. This subconscious mind, they call it to be the sixth sense, not the sixth sense in the terms of added to the other one. No, it has its own sixth sense, and these are the things that controls you. Now, this is where it get complicated. If you see in here is all about habits. It's all habits. Habits. So your subconscious mind is full with of habits, be it good habits, be it a bad habit. So if you're talking about gene, be it good gene, be it bad gene. So can you change bad habit to a good habit? Yes. How easy is it to change a bad habit to a good habit? Very bad. Very hard. That's why you see people who smoke, it's very, very hard for them to stop smoking. People who drink, it's very, very hard for them to stop drinking. People who take drugs, it's very, very hard for them to stop. It's not like they can't, but it's a habit that's rooted down to the subconscious mind. This is where we store everything that we do. Okay? So in our subconscious mind, these are the six senses that make up our subconscious mind. We have perception, and this perception is a big problem because everybody have seen everybody live on their perception. So what this perception is, from those five senses, we see something and we accept it. We send it down to our subconscious mind, and it will store it. We hear something, we accept it, we send it down to our subconscious mind, and it will accept it. We taste something, we accept it, and we send it down here. Okay? We touch something, whether cold or hot, and we accept it, we send it down here. So we end up living on our perception because we've had all this information stored in our subconscious mind. So, for example, if I'm talking with you and someone is coming, somebody you haven't met, but I know this person, so I'm going to introduce to this person to you. And I will say, this guy that is coming is a doctor. Immediately, your mind have created a box calling this person a doctor. So it's like you creating a file on your computer. So when you create a file, you name it. So that's when you meet someone, the first thing you ask, what's your name? Because you are looking for a name to name that file that which you've created in your mind. So that's the first question. I am, because the person, I am this, and what's your name? Then two of you will create that. So what happens if, because you haven't met this person before, and I tell you he's a doctor, but he happened not to be a doctor. Your subconscious mind doesn't know what is right and what is wrong. It's whatever you accept, your subconscious mind will take. So if it's not a doctor and I told you he's a doctor, you've accepted that he's a doctor. Whenever you see this person, what will come out in the scream of your mind is doctor, because that's what you've been told first time. So you live on that perception of thinking that person is a doctor. Okay? So willpower. That's when people try to break habit. They say, "Oh, I don't have the willpower." There's nothing wrong with your willpower. We have a very perfect willpower. We can change anything we want in our life. Be it bad gene, you can change it. So I hear people they say we have bad memory. Nobody have bad memory. We only have weak memory. Okay? As imagination. Napoleon Hill said, "This is the greatest nation in the world." So you hear people they say we daydream. There's nothing wrong in you daydreaming. It's what kind of dream are you? Are you using the 12% of your thinking for the daydreaming, or 88% of your negative thinking for the daydreaming? Everything we see today was once a daydream, was once an imagination before you come into reality. So remember, you become what you think about most of the time. So if you're using the 12%, which is positive thinking, and you're imagining something, you fantasizing about something most of the time, then it's going to come reality. But if you're using 88%, which 97% of human beings are using, they stay where they are. Reasoning. So these are all rooted down in your subconscious mind. Intuition. Well, this is we use this every day, but we don't know. How many times has someone called you and you say, "Wow, I was just thinking about you now"? This is intuition working. How many times have you seen someone you say, "Are you alright?" And the person will say no. How do you know? You use your intuition. Okay, everybody uses this, but if you not been told how it works, you wouldn't know. Even the dogs know when something is wrong. Okay, so your subconscious mind or paradigm are a multitude of habits, and these habits are other people's habits passed on from one generation to next that we inherit at birth. So whatever we do today, whatever we do has been passed on from our mom or from our dad or from our siblings down to us. When we are born, this subconscious mind is empty, it has nothing. But when we start using the five senses, we start creating this memory. We have the memory that somebody was sick in our family, and they keep telling us that it was this, and we have that stuff in there. because it's in our family, it runs in the family. You have the idea that you're going to have the same effect. So we store it. We have this perception that okay, somebody was sick and we are going to be the same. So this is not being taught in school. And I can't spend these few minutes explaining it. I just kind of overview of how it works. Okay, there's so many books written now on this self-conscious mind, and the more you read it, the more you can understand that you can change whatever gene or whatever habit which you've inherited from your past generation. Okay, so if we are what we think about most of the time, then we need positive thinking, we need paradigm change. So that's where your lifestyle come in. What kind of life are you living? What kind of thinking do you think all of the time? That is going to affect your action. So remember, if you think positively all the time, you're going to be a positive person. You're going to be enthusiastic about yourself. You're going to be motivating. You're going to be motivated all of the time. And people around you that will be your action. And that your action will affect your results. So if you stand up and say, well, I'm not going to smoke, and you didn't smoke, there's no way you're going to have any disease that smoke causes. If you stand up and say, well, I'm not going to eat all the processed food, well, your action will be that you're not going to buy it. And the result is that you are going to be healthy. Okay? So if you thinking positive thinking all the time, your action will be different. You wouldn't hide it. And the result you get in your life will be the same, will be different from every other person around you. So we have bad gene because we are doing the same thing our past parents done, and we taking the same action, and we end up getting the same result. So you change your thinking, you change your paradigm, and that is going to affect your action. Then your action will affect your result. Okay? I think I've done my best to explain this well. All this information which I shared, none of them is mine. All these pictures is being picked up online. So feel free to Google epigenetics. There's a book now written about it. Everything I explain here is in there. They kind of explain it well. So your lifestyle determine what kind of gene you're going to have. Your environment determines what kind of gene you're going to have. So if you decide not to live the life every other person is living around you, you try to change your positive thinking at least to 30-40%, your action will be different, and that will affect your results. So when they talk about gene, there's something you can do about it. It's not doesn't determine your destiny. That somebody in your family is sick with cancer or any other disease doesn't mean you're going. So far, you live a different life, you eat a different food, you think differently, you would definitely get a different result. That's what they mean when they say epigenetics. Thank you. Over and out.